The new Poco X4 Pro has a 108 megapixel main camera that delivers pretty good photos, but can GCam do better? Let's find out in this Poco X4 Pro camera test. Let's look at a bunch of test shots, including landscapes, selfies, and night shots. Then I'll show you which GCam port and the specific settings I used for both camera apps. This first sunset shot came out well with both camera apps, but GCam wins because of the better dynamic range and detail it produces in the sky. GCam wins again for this white flower photo since it's more detailed and doesn't blow out the highlights in the sidewalk like the stock Poco camera. Here's an umbrella, and I think both apps produce similar results, but if I had to choose, I'd say GCam performs better in terms of controlling highlights. How about these tree-shaped shrubs? Or maybe these are shrub-shaped trees. I still don't know, but once again GCam is able to both better control the highlights and maintain detail in the shadows. GCam delivers a generally brighter snow picture, which helps the fence pop much better than the stock camera. Again, GCam has better dynamic range for this bread shot, but it does look a bit too blue, and the Poco camera is simply more color accurate this time. Here's that shot again, but using portrait mode on both cameras. And you can see that GCam crops in a lot, and I prefer the stock Poco camera here because it still looks more color accurate. The cameras behaved very differently on this chrome pipe shot. Stock camera looks extra green in the grass and trees, and GCam simply lacks any depth of field. My first thought when I saw this picture of my feet was how similar these photos turned out, but if you look closer at the concrete, GCam is much more detailed and vibrant. I finally got a chance to take a picture of this dumpster that I found in the middle of nowhere. Why is it there? And how's it full of garbage? Both apps do a good job, but I love the range in the sky that GCam provides, even though Poco camera looks a little more natural. Both camera apps captured this clock in a similar way, and while GCam gives us more dynamic range again, I think I like the very natural look from the Poco camera. Stock camera wins this shot of a giant cloud catching machine, even though there is some clipping in the highlights, since GCam really just outputs a flat, less vibrant image. Did you notice those levers and valves? I have no clue what this thing is, but I bet it's doing something cool. Lastly, this shot of a brick wall and shadow and a bright sunny sky can be tricky for a lot of cameras, but both do a good job here. GCam does perform better though by capturing more light on the brick wall while managing to control highlights throughout the rest of the scene. Selfies, night mode shots, and video samples are next, but if you're finding this video helpful, please give it a like, and thank you for that. This first selfie is taken with the main rear camera like all the previous images, and GCam looks much better than the stock camera, and I had a hard time controlling this very uneven lighting on my face. Here's that same shot, but with portrait mode, and again GCam crops in substantially, but the overall look of the image is in line with the non-portrait mode shots, and GCam wins. Here's a shot from the actual selfie camera, and both look worse, but GCam still comes out on top, since Poco camera really blew out the highlights and produced unnatural colors. Same problems with portrait mode on the selfie camera, but at least both apps don't display any issues with edge detection. I was originally gonna have a whole dumpster theme for this comparison, but my wife told me that was trashy, so here's the only other dumpster image, taken from the selfie camera, and again GCam wins. For night mode and night sight shots, GCam still usually outperforms the stock Poco camera on the X4 Pro 5G. As seen in this fire hydrant scene, Poco camera is noisy and way too green. The Poco camera is actually more color accurate with these cars since the only close light source is a very orange street lamp, and I think it is a bit sharper than GCam too. Unfortunately, the stock camera falls way behind on the front of the silver car, which is way too noisy. GCam's coloring is slightly better with this couch, but the stock camera is much sharper here. Now this is a worst case scenario shot. There's basically no light in this room and both cameras perform poorly. There are a lot of situations where this would be an issue. I just wanted to see if GCam could do some magic. Again, in a very dark space, and GCam handles it better with this white fan. Here's that orange streetlight, and besides the Poco camera being a bit too green, I think both apps perform similarly. For video, it's an issue of what's more important to you, better color and dynamic range or stabilization. If you want stabilization, use the stock Poco camera. If you want an overall more pleasing image, or if you're not moving around very much, then use GCam. I did try turning on active stabilization in GCam, and it didn't make a difference. Honestly though, video is disappointing on the X4 Pro, since it tops out at a 1080p resolution, so don't purchase this phone hoping to get high resolution video shots. I used a GCam port from developer Nikita, and a download link is in the description. Since at the time of recording, this is a very new phone. There aren't many custom XML files available that would enable more GCam features for the X4 Pro, but by the time you watch this, there might be, so be sure to do some digging to find the best GCam for this device. As far as the settings I use for each camera app, I let the stock Poco camera shoot at its default settings, which is basically just HDR auto, and for GCam, I had to tune it just a bit. First off, to fix a problem with this port producing extremely green images, go to Settings, More Settings, Advanced, Google AWB Mode Options, and turn on AWB Gains. This adjusts the auto white balance settings to get rid of the green pictures. I then left Google AWB set to auto. I also shot everything using HDR Plus Enhanced, and I upped the HDR Plus Enhanced frame count to 30 from the default of 0, because 0 frames for HDR seems a little low to me. This does slow GCam down when capturing an image, since it literally has to take 30 slightly different photos, but I think the results are worth it. Plus, you can always go with a lower number of frames. I just wanted to show just how well even this GCam port, without an XML configuration file for this specific phone, can perform. Overall, the stock Poco camera typically doesn't do a bad job, except with night mode, but GCam really helps in a variety of situations, and it's worth installing on the Poco X4 Pro 5G. If you think the Poco X4 Pro is the right phone for you, you should check out Wireless Place, since they have Poco devices as well as phones from Xiaomi, Samsung, Motorola, OnePlus, and more. I've bought a few phones from Wireless Place, and they always ship fast and ship internationally. They have great prices and include a US adapter for the charger if you need it. Please use my discount code PC10 when you check out, if you want to support the channel or just want to save a little money. A link to the site is in the description. Please subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and feel free to comment with any other ports you'd like me to test with, or any questions you might have, and I will answer them perfectly. Just try me.